I cannot think of one thing that the whole world at the same time suffered from other than COVID. Can anyone else? Because if anyone can prove me wrong, I'd love to know that. So saying that, the energy has been just wonky, wouldn't you say, for a few years. We all suffered in some way. I never thought I would get COVID. I wasn't anti-really anything. I just, listened to my body, did what I thought my body needed, didn't live in fear, went to a conference, got the Delta version of all versions, came home, and I was sick about a week. And then I just intuitively woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning, and my husband also had COVID. We were in a fifth wheel of all things, waiting for our house to close, which we ended up not being able to close because I was in a coma. And I just said, I can't breathe. And so I don't know how many of you don't have to share, but I'm just kind of curious, how many of you have had COVID in the room? Probably at least once. Yeah, so that's like 75%, just so y'all know. And I think it's just going to be the new flu, eventually. So it's interesting that I didn't want to give the energy to the word, and then I got it, and now it's my platform, right? They talk about, all over the place. So, it's hard to even look at those pictures, because one thing I've noticed lately is that our bodies hold trauma. Do you believe that? I never really had given it much thought until literally the last couple months, because I would have certain things come up, and I was like, wow, where'd that come from? Because I didn't have any anxiety before, I didn't really have any health problems before. I mean, I joke with the doctors, I was perfectly healthy until I walked in here. Now, I didn't have one record for them to look at, anything to have a guide. And just the hospital here, the first 5 weeks I was here, there was 423 records in 5 weeks. So, they have lots of records now.
Wait, say that again.
So I had no.
It's just really scratchy. Okay.
All right, is that working? Okay, so what is it?
123, and then I didn't hear the rest of it.
So the 423. So I had no records, no guide at all of any records medically on me, because I never went to the doctor. I just never got sick. And and when I went to go get my records printed, I'll tell you a few miracles that happened along the way as they kind of come up. Track me, because I do still have a lot of COVID fog, and there's still a lot of issues. Did you know that when you stay in the hospital, ICU in particular, that every day you're in there, they say it's a week recovery? Okay? So I have till March to have this excuse. Just kidding. Of next year, not this year. So I have to remind myself sometimes, though, that I am still healing. And it's interesting because I'm an energetic person anyway, but when you're put in that position, I mean, I was put in a coma most of the time, sometimes paralyzed. My husband couldn't come for 3.5 weeks because he had COVID, they wouldn't let him in, and he had no energy. And when he finally did, I have really good sisters that live here in town. So one of my daughters and 2 of my sisters did 24/7 shifts. They found out early on that I needed someone there 24 hours a day, which was really interesting because I'm really independent. And they just said no, they were so intuitive to all that was happening. I had to learn to talk with my eyes because I had things down my throat, right? You couldn't breathe, and anxiety came up. I never had that before. I didn't know what that feeling was. And the nurses would be asking my daughter and my sisters, are you sure she didn't have anxiety before? Because she's really bad. And I think now, let me take your oxygen away and see how you react. Kind of like common sense to me, but okay. But it was a really sad time because, half the people in there were dying. And we had actually some other distant family members that came in a couple rooms down that didn't make it. And I remember my sister saying, I walked by his door and I felt death. She just said his numbers, because they learned to read my numbers from the machines, and his numbers were never as high as yours. I knew he wasn't gonna make it. He pulled out his ventilator twice. So I was not only I was ventilated 2 different times. So they put those in and then they do the trach. The trach was actually a positive thing because you're still on the ventilator, but now they can adjust the settings as you get better. But what we knew a year ago was that anyone that goes on a ventilator, you mostly hear that they die. Well, that's what I knew. So 4 days, I refused to let them intubate me because I was just like, oh, well, am I ready to go? I've never been afraid of death, but I was like, oh, do I really want to just get by when I know they stick that down my throat and can't talk anymore? Which is a really hard thing. I have a lot of words to make up for all those days. I didn't get to say anything. I was having a lot of head conversations, but my mouth was not moving. So they put me on the ventilator, and I remember my sister recording. They were so good to, check in with things, and I remember she recorded a lot of those, so I get to hear them. And there was a time when they were going to intubate me the first time, she had my husband on FaceTime and was recording it, the conversation, because do you know that they make you sign for that? And that kind of, like, you're almost dead, and they're making you sign a paper. I'm just thinking, in real estate, we call that duress. If you sign under duress, they can't hold you to that. So what happens if something goes wrong? I just sign. I'm pretty sure I'm in duress, right? So there's like all these things I'm thinking you just think crazy stuff, but you're like, all I know, I remember saying on there, all I know is I can't breathe. And if I want to breathe, to live, then you have to do whatever you got to do. Because I was done. I was out of breath. I could not keep my oxygen up. When I walked into the ER, they had me in a room. You know how slow they are, right? Yeah, how long you have to wait. I had 3 different oxygen levels put on me, and I was in the ICU in 30 minutes in a room. 30 minutes, I think that's a record. But that's how bad I was. I walked in at 63 was my oxygen. So I think if I had waited any longer and not listened, I would that would have been it. So there were many, many miracles that led up to that. 2 months before I went and got sick, I never had insurance my whole life. 2 months before, one of my friends said, she's a friend now, more so, obviously, but she said, just let me give you a quote. I'm like, that is such a waste. We are never sick. We raised 8 kids. We're fine, we're fine. Just let me give you a quote. You'll be really surprised. So I was really surprised, and I got insurance, and 2 months later, my bill ended up being $1 million. That was just the COVID journey. That hasn't been this year, since I got out, but 2 different hospitals, learning how to talk with your eyes, and then learning how to sit up, learning how to walk again. Then, the feeding tube's in there, then you have to learn how to talk and eat. And all those things that you take for granted that it's just normal, you had to learn again, okay? So that was just a really sucky time. And I know now, looking back, I'm still getting oh, that's why that happened. Oh, this is, it's kind of cool as my brain's starting to function a little better now. It's nice to see why, right? These are just stuff. Carolyn already introduced me. This is just my slide of stuff, right? Did those matter when I was laying there? I felt like, okay, is this the day where I die? There were many, many days I prayed to die. It was not a fun place to be. I was grateful for them putting me in a coma. Let's just put it that way. So I'll tell you a few little stories along the way, but there was just, the insurance thing was a miracle. There was just so many things. When I got out, for instance, I had a really good real estate, and I never have done real estate full time, by the way. So it was really interesting. I had doubled the real estate I had done in 17 years that year, and I only worked 8 months. So just ironically, things led up to that because I went 8 months without working and trying to get better. And so that was a blessing. There was just so many things I look back and go, wow. I get out of the hospital, a high school friend of mine, her son got a hold of her and said, I think your friend that's been really sick, that's in the hospital, has an insurance policy with us. And she's like, oh, really? Check into it. So come to find out, the only insurance we did have was this cancer policy I'd paid on for a few years. And because I'm a redhead and I get skin cancer, I thought, well, if I'm gonna get anything, it's gonna be cancer. I'm gonna get a cancer policy. Well, I happened to have a rider on it that was for the ICU. And when I got out, I had a $27,000 check that did not go to the hospital, cash to me, because I had that policy. So just there were just so many things that were bad things happen, then good things happen, bad things happen, and it keeps happening that way. I just feel like I would get these answers, I'd think of something would happen, and then I'd sleep on it, and I'd wake up with the answer. It's it was like I'd get schooled while I was sleeping. And this is what you do. Okay, I got this challenge. Okay, this is what you do. So, moving along, there are 3 things I really want to share with you today. Passion, hope, and legacy. Those are what I really want to get this message to you. And a little later on, hopefully we'll have some time, I want to open up for a little discussion. So if you think of any questions as you're taking notes, write them down, because I'm an open book. You can ask me on the stage or off the stage, doesn't matter, I'm good. I know I'm meant to be here. I mean, I know every day I wake up, I think, hey, this don't waste it. Like, when you get in that position, there's a lot of things that come up as guilt, you know, because I survived and so many didn't. And that was awesome. Anyway, but you think about all the ones, you know, that suffer. And this is my thought to that, for some of you that have lost people, because almost everyone in here, I bet if I asked, would raise their hand, that they either know somebody, a loved one, or a friend, somebody who did die from COVID. I would say, I saw the other side. Trust me, the ones that survived are the ones suffering. My whole platform is for long haul COVID. This whole nonprofit that I started is for the awareness and the support to this under-supported and served community. When I first started doing research, I thought, oh, there's probably a couple 100,000 of us. Gosh, that's a lot of people. No, there's millions of people who suffer from long haul COVID. Now, I have to say I hate that word. I'm not going to use that word, hate. I really do not like that word because it just seems like a long haul. Okay, what is it? I feel like I'm a trucker, right? I just was, at first wanted to rebrand that word, and then somebody said to me, no, you're just marketing a different name, that's all. Just call it what it is, whatever. I do have some statistics I'd like to share with you. Has anyone done any research or any on statistics from just COVID in general or long hauler people? Okay, so I don't have a problem with any of these slides, taking pictures or anything. If you want to share that data with anyone, I mean, I just Googled it, so you can get it yourself too. You're welcome to take a picture, but these are just, I mean, honestly, do you think we'll ever have real numbers? That's the thing. I don't want to make any of this a political. When we go into discussion, please be considerate of that, because this isn't about politics for me. This was about people's lives, you know, and how we could support them from here on out. But these are the numbers. Long haul COVID, there are people that they probably don't even know they have it. They probably never got tested for COVID. My husband, he's a long hauler, but he went to the hospital, he was on some oxygen, never stayed, got a blood clot, but he's got long haul things. But they don't have to be like me. Like people like me, I'll tell you a humbling story. I'll show you the list. That might not be next. These are all the body parts though that affects. I went into pulmonary rehab. I had another friend here in town that was also doing it and suggested get out of regular rehab and go to pulmonary rehab. And so I did, and I was doing a pulmonary function test, and I said there were 18 sessions they put me through, and it was a heart and lung floor at the hospital. And I just said to the guy, I said, you know, it seems really odd with COVID, all this happening, that there's only 2 of us in your rehab program. Like, can you tell me, like, what's going on? And she slid back on her chair, and she turned around and looked me right in the eyes, and she said, that's because they don't live. And my heart just sank. I was just like, it was so humbling and blessed. But I broke inside for those people that don't need that rehab that I was actually getting because I was alive. These are some other names. If you want to take a picture of that, this is what I shared with some of the practitioners that do this work, that you can market without saying COVID and getting in legal trouble, that you can say to help people that have long haul COVID. It's a great platform for yourself to be able to get clients, to be able to serve this underserved community. kind of in the way if anyone wants that. But those are just the names. So if you hear those, now you'll be aware that that's what they mean. I hadn't heard of 3/4 of those. Like, all I really knew was long haul. And people still ask me now, well, what's long haul? What is that? So, like, the awareness is just not there. People know what COVID is, and you know what? They're sick and tired of hearing about it. Just like me, I wouldn't even allow the word in my magazine to be printed because I didn't want to give it the energy. But what are we doing to help serve these people that are still suffering? If you saw me on the street, would you know I'm a long haul COVID survivor? Would you know a year ago I was on a ventilator? Probably not. I might tell you, I might not. You know, it just depends what kind of a conversation we're having. And so I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are really suffering because they aren't seen. There's over 50 symptoms that they've identified that long haulers have, and these are just a few of them. It was interesting when I gathered these because someone asked me, oh, well, how many of those do you have, or what do you have? I had every one of those, if not, still I already had. Every single one of those on that list I have had. So it's interesting because, you know, you'll notice health things, and if you've had health issues and you work on clients that have health issues, that a lot of things cross over. Won't you agree? That when you're going through things, and don't you see all the drug, what do you call the drug? No one knows, or watch outs. What do you call those? Side effects, yeah, those. That's the stuff that I'm telling you about. But don't you look and you're like, they all say that. I mean, like, you're like, how would I even know what my symptoms are? Because this fixes everything, right? I mean, they all cross over. So I think it's just like really learning to listen to our body. I wasn't very good at that because I was healthy. I didn't ever have issues. And so I'm not the best at it still. I'm still a work in progress because I am a goer. And it's like, I remember the prayer I had one night was, if I'm not gonna get better, then take me now, because this sucks. And if you're not gonna take me now, then tell me and get me better, because I want out of here. I was done. I was just like, it's the line in the sand here, make a decision. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that story in a minute. So these are all the things, I think there's a couple more I'm missing on here that I thought of later, but these are all the things that I did personally, and what doctors I had to go to. I think I went to like 9. And remember, I never went to the doctor, so that was hard for me to do that. I never could figure out, I have a daughter who's pretty ill, and she had so many doctors, and I'm like, why do you have so many doctors? Like, what the heck? And now I realize it because COVID affects all those organs. You need a specialist for every single stupid thing. And I mean, I don't want to be attached to any of those, you know, that they've claimed I have. And I'm working really hard to unclaim that I have them, right? And there's not really answers. Like, our help is not really helpful when I'm their statistic and I'm asking them the question. You know what they want to ask me? They want the answer from me. Well, why would I go to them then? So there are doctors that are specializing in it, so our nonprofit is bringing lists together so that people that need extra help, they can know where to go. But that's a lot of stuff. I mean, it was a lot of time and energy to feel like, I mean, I've been on 15 drugs, and in a year. So I've been drug free for, I want to say about between 90 and 120 days, which I think is pretty dang good. So, but that's me. I'm not against drugs, so don't hear that I am. I'm just, for me, I knew there was more side effects from the drug than there would be from what I was dealing with. So I'm not saying I won't have to go back on either. I do have issues that are long haul issues, right? Hence why we're here. Then we got, wow, do I live in Southern Utah? We have stages of grief that we all go through. And we've all been, I'm sure, schooled on all of these and the order. Is there an order? Is there an order to grief? No, there is not no order, no. Wow, I can't speak today even like I'm from Texas or something. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, these come up for everyone who has experienced issues with COVID, whether you had it yourself, you watched a loved one, a long hauler, they're going through this. And the world is screaming for hope right now. Wouldn't you agree? And how are we going to help not only get it for ourselves, but give it to others? So we can have that little discussion in a little bit. Okay. Dang, I forgot. On my phone I have the song. Let's see. What's that song? Let's get to the good part. You know that? Okay. So my voice, this has been another really sad thing, is I am a singer. And I have to switch to the blues because my voice is really low now. And I really can't sing. Like, it's really ugly. So that's been the hardest part emotionally, because when you have a voice and then your voice is taken away, it's hard. It's really, like that, I have to say, that has been a really challenge for me. So anyway, that, pretend you just heard that music. Okay, this is story time. So this was the rest of the story I started to tell you. When the pivotal moment came, I had this painting. This is actually a PDF of it, but I have it painted. It just got framed, and I haven't even got to see it yet. I pictured it's 6 foot by 4 foot. It's huge. I don't even know what wall I'm going to put it on yet. But they told me it had to be that big because I could only have 28 faces painted in there. And that's why there's shadows in the back, because there were a lot more people here, and there was a lot more people I wanted painted. But that, you know, picture, you have to have a list and start crossing off people you love. That was what I had to do to get this. But I knew I needed this for me. And this came about when this gal, I'm just gonna walk right over to her. This gal right here. So she is like a sister cousin. She was raised with us. She's 3 years younger than me. She wrote a text to my sisters when I was in the hospital and said, I would never do this through a text, but I know right now Holly's struggling and you need to read it to her. So I got several infections while I was in there. They didn't know why, but they were all like I would have probably died from any of those. So it was like, it was either the ventilator is gonna kill her or the infection's gonna kill her. I mean, my sister said sometimes a whole week would go by. They were using my phone to update my Facebook, because people were just, I built friends all over the world. And they said that was the only way we knew anything. They were so grateful to have that. And she said a week would go by and I don't even know what to post because not a thing has changed. You're not better and you're not worse. You're just there. And Tracy knew that, and she was saying some prayers one day, and she felt people around her. She's a filler. I'm like a seer, and she's a filler. That makes sense? And I didn't understand that until a little later when I really put the pieces all together. But she said, she's super nosy, by the way. She's nosy. So of course she said, may I know who is here with me? Good for her, because then she did. She got to find out one by one the names of who was there with her, saying I was going to be okay. And she said, read this to Holly. And so I remember they would take me in and out of the coma all the time. I remember coming out and them saying, they wanted to read it to me, and I said, okay. And my other sister must have been on FaceTime, because they would only allow one person at a time in a 24-hour period. So my husband would have to get snuck in for like a couple hours. They were always bringing cookies to the nurses, so everybody loved them. I mean, even housekeeping, they bring them cookies from Crumble. Anyway, so they were like willing to do stuff for them. Plus, having someone there 24/7 helped them. Think about it. They were there to hold the nurses accountable, but the nurses actually got a break too. So it was a win-win for everyone. But she read this to me, and I remember going back out, so I don't know if they put me back in a coma or what, but I remember being ticked off. I was like, that is not okay. Like, why, like a little tear tantrum, you know? Why did she get that? I didn't. Like, why didn't I see that? I'm suffering, I'm laying here dying. Why is she getting that information and I'm not? I mean, I was mad. And that is when my mom had just passed away about a year before, right here. My grandbaby had just died about 6 months before. This is a brother and a sister who died in a horrific car accident, different times, a year and a half, leaving 4 kids. Everyone in white had passed on. Tracy's mom is my favorite aunt. She's here. She had just died like 6 months before. But her daughter had also died with my brother in the car accident. It's been like 13 years. But so like it's just kind of cool how everything gets to be related, right? The rest are a couple of my good friends, my dad, my new bonus mom, and then brothers and sisters, which I have a lot of them, and then my kids. So that is who ended up being there, but that was what I got to see by throwing my tantrum, so that probably wasn't right. But sometimes we have to fight for what we want. So my mom came to me, she was always on my right side, and she said, "This is not your time to go. You are supposed to fight," which is why we call the painting Fight. And when she said that, all of them, and the visions on the side of me, but really they were here. And everyone in white appeared, all surrounding my bed. And then, as far as I could see back, which is why there's shadows, was people for support. Like, it was like, I mean, it seemed every time they would chant fight, a whole new group would come up. It was just like this. And I was like, wow, okay, you're on, you gotta fight now. Not that I wasn't, I was fighting, I'm a fighter. But that was for me to always remember, I've just gotta find the right place to hang it now in my house, because those are people I know, no matter what. We all have those people, no matter what, they're gonna have your back, right? They're family. Your friends can be your family, as far as I'm concerned. And so you always need to have those people behind you that are gonna have your back. All right, so there is life after COVID. I'm here to tell you that. You have to find the humor. So the story behind this one was, can you believe I'm a hairdresser? I have hairdressers like that. My sister in the hospital was a hairdresser and let my hair look like that. One of my best friends that's coming to town today for our gala tomorrow night, she said, yeah, when I saw that picture, I texted your sister and said, Holly is not gonna be happy when she sees that. But this is what happened. So this funny one, when I heard the story, ironically I was in a funeral for a dear friend, and we were like getting ready for it to start, and my sister, and my youngest sister, and my daughter started cracking up, and I'm like, why are you guys laughing? Well, they had sent this back and forth when I was in the hospital when my hair was like that. And my daughter's also a hairdresser, but she did do my hair and nails while I was in the ICU like twice while I was in a coma. Was that cool? I had like nice nails and hair all while I was in there. I know, not hair. Let's scratch the hair. I did not have nice hair apparently. But I had so many wires going everywhere, they just didn't know what to do with it. So I threw it out, whatever. I don't look good with a messy bun. But they had this come up and they shared it because they were like, we had to find, you weren't doing good, we had to find the humor in anything we could. So they were laughing about it, they're like, they looked at each other and they're like, too soon? I'm like, too soon for what? To show me, right? I'm like, and we're literally at a funeral. And they're showing me this. And they're like, well, you weren't doing very good. We didn't want to really show you, but it kind of was funny. And we'll show you now. I mean, I got a sense of humor, gee. But the point of it all is we do have to find, there is humor. I mean, it's not a funny situation. You know, people dying is not funny. And we have to find joy in the crap sometimes. We do. So all of this came around and brought me to this idea that I got while I was in a coma. There were a couple things that happened. In my past, I've had, these will be like 11 companies that I've started. And I've loved them all. Like, there's a reason that you don't just start a company. Trust me, anyone entrepreneurs in here? You don't just go do that just to do it. It's a lot of work, right? Well, and they were all successful in their own little way, and then I'd move on. I usually had 2 or 3 companies at a time. Well, while I was in a coma, I always wanted a nonprofit, but I never really could get behind one completely and just say, yeah, this is what I want to fundraise for, this is what I want to do philanthropy work for. There were so many good causes, but I just, like, my heart was never there. And so this came to me, this idea, the name, everything, was for the one called COVID. So we call it Adventure Bucket Wish, because if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And then I wanted it to be wishes. So stuff we can do for people that they wouldn't be able to do. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's physical limitations, mental limitations, whatever it is. we can support. Maybe it's medication for the next 3 months to get them through something, right? Maybe, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Well, I came up with this, and I was already working on another company that really had my heart too. It's called R&R Retreat. You'll hear about it because it's like an Airbnb, VRBO, but for retreats. So that's coming. That's still a lot of work. That's like my legacy project. This is my heart project. So I feel like, and this is also the philanthropy piece to the legacy project. So that's what I felt like, if I die, what legacy did I leave? I felt like I didn't really have that anchored in, you know, like, what is it that is really gonna stand out, that I really feel like I'm leaving the world a better place, right? So I feel like, okay, you got the second chance, don't waste it. So I have not stopped really since I've got these ideas, but this is launching tomorrow night. We did do our first wish, I'm gonna show you. Our first wish just happened a few weeks ago. It's a dear friend of mine, her name is Christina Thomas-Sweet, and she's had COVID 3 times, and she's gonna be 80 in a couple weeks. So I was really excited. She always wanted to go on a hot air balloon ride. I'm just gonna show you, they're gonna bring up there's a cute video, we're gonna post it tomorrow to our gala that we're doing. Are we good? Okay. So today is a really exciting day. We have Christina Thomas-Sweet, and she is one of my dear friends, and she's our first wish for Adventure Bucket Wish. We're so excited that she's always wanted to go on a hot air balloon, and I wanted to make sure she got to be our first wish. So we've been planning this for months. She knew nothing about it. We just went and showed up, picked her up at 7 o'clock this morning, and brought her down. And how was it?
It's just so awesome. It's quiet, it's beautiful, you can see for miles and miles, and count all the swimming pools.
And I have to mention, so ours is for the nonprofits for long haul COVID sufferers, and Christina's had COVID 3 times, so like, she just had it qualified 3 times apparently, and anyway, so, you know, it's got its, ups and downs all the time, right? So anyway, we're excited that she got to be part of this, and thank you. We're just glad we have breath to breathe. Breath to breathe.
How was it? Stupendous. Absolutely stupendous.
What was your favorite part?
When it was coming down. Yeah, it was nice. It was cool to watch it come down and land. yeah.
Woo! She's first! Nicely done! Yeah. So something that simple, like I mean, she could have died the next day and just been the happiest person in the world. I mean, and it was simple. I mean, I'll tell you what, that 1 hour little wish for her took me a couple months to put together. We didn't even know. So I picked her up at her house when it was dark. I had my grandson and my husband with me. We drove over there. She had no idea what was going on. So it's dark. We pull up out at Staley Farms here, if you're familiar with the area. And they didn't have the basket out of the trailer even yet. She even saw that and she still didn't clue in what was going on. Like, no, you're smarter than this, I know it. I was just like, really, you don't know? And she's like, oh, and I can't remember what she said because it was so off the wall, it was funny. And then we play, I said, well, you're actually getting granted our first wish for Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation. And she's like, what, really? I said, yeah, you get to go on a hot air balloon ride. Well, I've always wanted to go on a hot air balloon ride. I mean, and it's just like, oh, like, wouldn't we all want a job like that? That we could just be that for somebody. I mean, the best job I ever had prior, well, not that this is even a job. I forget, I don't want to talk. I was a flower delivery person, and I was a senior in high school, just graduating, and I would deliver flowers, and it was like that. Anyone else ever deliver flowers? I mean, I'm sure you've all got them at some point in your life, but when you give them, you see that joy. Might be from someone they don't want them from. You don't know that until they open the card, and you're gone, right? You see the joy, you feel it, you're like, oh, this is good, this is great, well, you walk away. Who cares if it doesn't matter, you just saw the joy, right? So it's that feeling like, I'm like, oh, this is so cool, that's what it felt like to me. We could recreate this joy in somebody. And the wishes will be anything. Like I said, they don't have to. It's similar to Make-A-Wish Foundation, but it's for long-haul COVID sufferers. And so there's going to be some great things come out of it. It will be international. However, I want to keep as many wishes, like on this side of Southern Utah, that we can, because we have so many people supporting it right now. Tomorrow is our, again, gala. It's our first fundraiser. Did I shut my hair? Anyway, and we have about 70 people joining us and a whole bunch of people that have donated for the auction. We have a silent and a live auction and just a lot of fun things planned. So I'm super excited that we've had such good support for it. I mean, people haven't told us no. They might have said not right now, they couldn't do something, but I don't think I've heard no from anyone because, again, everybody has a little bit of a heart for it because they know somebody who has suffered from it. So finding your passion, make what you do matter. Whatever it is, make it matter every day. Wake up and ask yourself, like, what can I feel passionate about? What can bring me joy? Who can I help create joy in? Create that hope for them. Because we're all struggling with something, right? When you agree that we all, even as healers, or I shouldn't say the word healers, instead just people that have hope, that want hope, that are hope, we can give that to others. We can move forward in our lives and serve others that'll help them move forward in theirs. And then the legacy piece is just leave your name on something. It doesn't have to be big. I wanted something big, and I feel like I'm creating that because I am a creator, and I got a second chance, maybe a third or a fourth, I don't know, maybe. And I don't want to waste it. I want to make sure that every day I wake up that I'm doing something productive and something that matters. Just a call I want to leave before we open a discussion for a minute is you can have more than you've ever had because you can become more than you've ever been. Every day is a new day to start over. Every day we get to wake up, when we wake up, and change anything we want to change and be whoever we want to be and give someone hope, give ourselves hope. And with that said, that's my contact information if you want it. How are we doing on time, Carolyn? How are you feeling?
Good.
We okay to have a little
We're
discussion?
a short discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I was talking to the gals in the car with me. First of all, you can ask a question if you want, but I kind of wanted to ask, not individually people, but just put it out there, like, what's one thing that you feel like you've done or have that you've seen someone helping someone else? You know, like if we talked about it in our car, so anyone in my car, please be first to say something, because we had a great discussion about just some modalities or like, what is it? What's one thing? Don't take too long, because I want to hear as many as we can, but get your notes out, because I'm not kidding, we were talking about all these things, and I said, oh, make sure you say that one. Oh, make sure you say that one, because when we get as a group and collectively come up with ideas and share ideas, that's what makes the world, we're the ones here that are going to be offering the hope to people, right? We're in this room for a reason. We're here to learn, we're here to enjoy each other, and if you want to learn, jot these down. So, okay, I'm going to start. I don't know, should we pass, do we have a mic, or is this the only one? We can just pass
We
it
don't have
around.
that long.
Or yell it out.
I mean, I don't mind.
Oh,
Is that what you're saying?
sure. I want everyone to hear. So those that were in my car, can you stand up and go first? If you want. I'm not going to make you, but I kind of am.
Something that's helped me and clients is doing a vagus nerve reset. So just look for that on YouTube. It's very helpful for the nervous system and just relaxes some of the digestion, thinking, and things. So vagus nerve reset exercises, they can take 5 minutes and it makes a big difference.
Okay.
Recap what she said in case you didn't.
The vagus nerve, there's a lot. Have you noticed you're seeing a lot on that? That affects COVID a lot. I'm just starting to learn about it myself, but it's a lot right now out there about that. So check that out. Who else was on my phone? Or just stand up if you have something's coming to mind. Y'all have some juicy stuff. I know it. I heard. I've been listening for the last 3 days. So, but what do you think is one thing that you have that would help maybe somebody else, personally or with their clients? Don't be shy. Come on. Y'all got lots. I know.
Will you repeat the question? Repeat the question.
Just one thing that you've done that has helped someone, some way. Maybe a tool that you use, maybe something you practiced on yourself that's worked for you, just in the health, general health. So we all work on people who are sick at some point. Not that they have to be, but I mean, we're all sick. We're all just trying to get better every day, right? So just something that you can think of that would help everyone here. Yeah.
So one thing I did after after meeting Carolyn and doing different things, is I made a set of affirmations. And Carolyn called it realization, I think, or manifestation. I made a realization program, like how to actually realize things. And then I created a morning routine. And so I have a little book. I actually, at the time, had it taped on my bathroom wall. And it's like every morning I'd have to go to the bathroom. So I would read my scriptures. I would then go through the affirmations. And I would have my realization list. And the things that were manifested are unbelievable. One other thing said to do a vision board. My vision board was completed within probably 4 years without even working on it. It was just every day I would do that. And I know people are now saying affirmations don't really help or work. I'm a testimony that they do. If we will just really do our affirmations and love them and change it. If you don't like what it's saying and you have something else, change it. But my bathroom became my little holy shrine and it was amazing. So
I love that. Right now is really the best time of the year to start planning for next year, and those vision boards are powerful. I made them when I was like in 8th grade and didn't even realize it until I was married with a couple of kids, like down to some boots that I had cut out a picture that I realized I had already had, wore out, done, like 7 or 8 years later, and I thought, okay, yeah, there's something to this. So yeah, right now is a great time to start working on goals and visions right now. Anything else? Anyone come up with? That's helped you?
So for me, instead of doing New Year's resolutions, okay, I used to teach PE. But instead of doing resolutions, I would do like a little process and come up with a theme for the year so that I would kind of base my activities or decisions throughout the year on that theme.
And that worked out really well?
Yes.
Did you let the students know that that was what you were doing? Or was it just your thing?
It was my thing, but I've done workshops on it, and so then other people have had that experience. And yeah, so when we have these conversations, they're like, oh yeah, the theme, it's been there all year long, and
Yeah.
it's like a guiding.
So kind of like your word or words that you pick. You
Yeah,
can
so it's
theme.
been something like balance or clarity or harmony. Just, you find that word, and then that word guides you through the year.
I love that. How many of you do words? You do words? I say words because I can't ever pick one. So it's always either a statement or like 3 words that I'll do.
Can I
Okay.
add one thing
Yeah.
that I totally forgot? One of the most important things is my prayers always start with thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for having me see this. Thank you for allowing me to remember to do my routine. And gratitude is where I started. And I don't know why I forgot to tell you that, but I really believe when you start with gratitude and then move forward through your routine, that makes a ton of difference. Because I started without gratitude, and then I changed to gratitude, and that's when I really did see the shows.
Okay, well, if you think of something, share it with somebody. Okay, one more.
I love what you're doing. I think one of the best feelings is to create joy in other people. And I just do it in simple ways. So I'm pretty intuitive, and so I can feel what people like or what they would want to receive or what, things like that, and pretty in tune that way. And so I just ask that I can be an answer to people's prayers or create joy, just create more joy. And so I'll just do little things like, I'll be like, I think they really like yellow roses, and I'll just like randomly leave yellow roses without telling them. Or like with my girls last weekend, I was like, you guys, let's go do random acts of kindness. I'm so funny. And so we just went to the store and we're like, what should we get? And we found these things on sale, and we were like, okay, let's go sneak around and just go get these to people and bring joy. So it's really fun, and it will, of course, uplift you as well.
Well, and what are you teaching your daughter? How to give others joy and have joy doing it, right? That's amazing, thanks. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn this over to Carolyn now.